Hello, people of New World, it's me, Lamani, and welcome back to the channel. And today, if you haven't seen it, we're going to cover the changes for the fire staff on the PTR. Now, if you like using a rocket launcher in New World, you're going to love the new fire staff. The rework is very strong. It's also a ton of fun to play. We've got some new animations coming in, ability reworks overall, and general passive changes to make it deal more damage, so we'll cover those too. Now, take this with a grain of salt. It is PTR, so things could change. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the biggest changes coming to fire staff. We have heavy attacks first. On live, your heavy attack is not a rocket launcher explosion. If you look on PTR, it now explodes, it'll do AoE damage and hit multiple targets. It's so strong because of all the increased damage, and hitting multiple targets will help pump out more cooldowns. Next up, we have Meteor Shower. If you look at the old version, this is where you're standing still casting it, and it's just not going to do much damage. If you look on PTR, you cast for 1 second, and boom, you now have an Ice Storm. You'll see I can move around. I don't have to sit there casting it, and it's just going to be free point denial potential where I can still heavy and light attack, or use another ability. Moving on to Pillar, you'll see the old version. It's going to take a little bit for the hit to actually come out. On PTR, it is almost instant. This is very difficult to dodge unless you hit a target right as they're rolling. It's tough to predict, so it's going to be a little bit tough to avoid. It's very nice, does a ton more damage because of that passive change. It's perfect. Next up, we have Incinerate, and you'll see the major thing is that the old version just takes forever to actually come out. You'll raise up your staff and then slam it down. It just takes forever. PTR version, instant. It's nice, quick tick of damage, and it could potentially save your life a little bit or just put some kill pressure down. Next, we have Burnout. This one is probably the most significant. If you look, you will see the old version of Burnout barely moves anywhere. If you have the new version of Burnout, and this is without any passives, you will move full distance no matter what. Now, if you compare the old and new version fully upgraded, yes, they'll move the same distance, but you'll see that cool little explosion happening on the PTR. It's a cool addition to the ability, but considering it's only a 2.5 meter explosion, it can be pretty difficult to use. And the last one we have is the Rune of Helios, and this is pretty clear. Old version, it's like a tiny pea. New version, it's like you're standing on top of an elephant. It's just much easier to take advantage of and actually get those damage gains. All right, so we know there's a lot of reworks to the fire staff coming, so let's just quickly walk through the abilities and passives that have changed. So just starting off, Pillar of Fire. This is going to come out significantly quicker than it used to, as you all saw earlier, compared to how it is on live. Pillar of Fire will be a all-purpose tool and pretty much in any build because of its new damage output. It's going to deal more damage based on Smolder and how many stacks of Smolder they have. Now, Smolder, just to preface this, is now what they used to call Burning. So they just gave it a name, so I'm assuming for various interactions with the dot, because it applies to abilities and giving it more damage, that they needed to give it a name, otherwise we'd have some really buggy high DPS potential from random things. Now, everything else with Pillar, this is still the same. This though, this used to be max health targets would take increased damage. This is now, if there's stacks of Smolder, increased damage. This can do up to 25% increased damage. These are the same as before. We look at Meteor Shower, this one has changed a lot. It's going to have a cast time and then pretty much be like Ice Storm. But then we see all of its passives changing a little bit. We get max mana here. We get Smolder potential here with heavy and light attacks. And then right here, we get the Grit. This one does stay the same. This is not really worth it anymore if you really think about it, because it's just a 1 second cast. We keep going. Clear Mind, same. Fireball. Fireball is pretty much the same, other than it doesn't have a burning field anymore, and it does apply a stack of Smolder on hit. So noted there, and empowering Fireball has changed, so it is a pretty significant nerf to Fireball. Singe, this is different. We now have it with light and heavy attacks. On live, this is just light attacks, so it's a little bit more tough to get 5 stacks of a dot on. Now that it's heavies, and you'll see in a second that heavies are AoE, this will apply so many dots to many people. We still have that increased crit chance. We have increased damage there from clear casting, but Flare, this is the huge one that is changing. It's going to make your fire staff like a rocket launcher. Your heavy attacks now trigger a 1 meter splash on impact. So if you shoot it at the target's feet and don't actually hit them, it's now going to hit. If you hit a target who's in a clump with another target, they're both going to get hit. And what does that mean? Well, we get cooldown reset on both of them now, and they both get a dot, and they both take the heavy attack damage. So there's that. Prophet of Fire Guide, same thing, crit chance. The one thing with Rune of Helios that is changing is the larger radius. It is gigantic now, so you'll actually be able to take advantage of that. Now you'll start to see a common trend with the Fire Staff is a lot more increased damage. So you'll see over here, Pyromania, this is just all attacks deal 10% increased damage as long as they have a burn or a smolder. This used to be health related, now it's just a permanent 10% increased damage. And then we keep going. Let it burn. This is going to apply whenever there's a smolder effect. This is a little bit different because it's just going to be constantly active because of this. Heat up, same kind of deal. It's just smolder if we dodge through a target. Here, Kindle, smolder lasts 20% longer, burn on live. Watch it burn. This is going to be still the same. It's just applying smolder instead of what they call burn. Combats be the same. And trial by fire, they actually reduced this from a 2-minute cooldown to a 30-second cooldown. Maybe it has some value. It's pretty much in the same boat as Enchanted Justice for the healers out there, which is still a 2-minute cooldown and does essentially the same kind of thing. Anyway, Incinerate. Some changes here. It's going to come out faster. It's actually going to hit quicker. It's going to have innate grit, but it's not going to double hit anymore. It's going to double tick a dot. So it's going to have 2 stacks of smolder when it hits instead. You still get this heal component, and then we get an empower now for each stack of Incinerate on the target. We now get an empower for each target hit by Incinerate, and it is 7 seconds. Does this make Incinerate worth it? I'm not sure because of the melee sort of range. Does this make Incinerate worth taking? I don't know, because you'll probably get bodied in melee if you aren't in medium armor, so it might get a little risky. Anyway, Flamethrower, pretty much the same deal across the board. Flamethrower is exactly the same. We go to Burnout, and that's where the other major change is. This is now innately going to give you the farthest dash duration. There's no longer the modifier here to give you a farther range. So it is much easier to take this for mobility because you don't have to sink 3 points into it. We still get the cooldown reduction component, but now we do get a 2.5 meter radius explosion. What I will say is this is rather difficult to hit at times, so it's not always worth taking. Quite honestly, I think the best option is just to always take baseline Burnout. It just makes it easier, it's functional, and it will act as a nice mobility option. All right, people, so those are the Fire Staff changes coming. I want to say there'll be more videos coming, more guides on PTR related things as I continue to test, especially random healer content. But if you want to see more on weapon specific changes, head on over to Icy Veins and check out those guides. They are updated with the current patch, and they will be updated again once the PTR is solidified. If you need anything in the meantime, feel free to hit me up on Twitch or send me a Discord DM. But as always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and thank you to every single one of you beautiful people for being you. Peace.